Hey God, why aren't you using me to my best potential? Fulfillment in work is a common pursuit for many, yet for guys, it can be this deafening desire. But the nature of the male psyche means that fulfillment can be hard to come by, leading to temptation, addiction, alcohol, porn, drugs, video games, you name it. Most of us seek some type of fulfillment in our work. And since that's what we do for 40 to 60 hours a week, in reality, we spend more time with our work than with our wives. And men often listen to that demon of pride that whispers in our ears, you should be further along than this, you should have more money than you do, you should be making more money than this, they should have promoted you, don't mess up, you can't afford to fail, what will they think of you? You know, I get all these ingredients. Then there's this doubt and pride, and along with the fear of failure, it can become crippling and debilitating, leading men down these paths of supposed worthlessness and addiction. And I think this is why for so many men, physical activity is the escape. And there's some good ones, you know, exercise, cutting the grass, working with our hands. But sadly for many of us, we take the second best option, which is watching other men be physically active and becoming drugged by the sport of choice. That seems to be, you know, the most common path for many who are stuck behind a screen all day. So many of us can, you know, end the day asking, what did I accomplish today? If it's behind a screen rather than in the great outdoors like generations before, you know, how do I find a way to feel this fulfillment I'm chasing? Well, I think there's some hope, and it comes from a place where a lot of people have found hope, and that's in the Bible, where people are looking for fulfillment in their lives. Solomon says, we should find our greatest joy in our work. And the one who came from heaven to be our example spent nearly 30 years of his life in the common mechanical labor, working with his hands like many people do today. But during this time, he was studying, he was looking at nature, he was helping the others, he was teaching, he was trying to influence as many as he could until greater opportunities arose. Another example is Moses, this biblical figure. He had all the advantages one could ever have in this world, all the education, all the experience, all the pedigree, in the right place, the right time. But we learn he was not exempt from these feelings of inadequacy and frustration. When he's about 40 years old, he's prepared to take on the greatest mission of his life, basically become Pharaoh, leader of the whole world. But in this moment of rage and retaliation, he murders an Egyptian officer. Well, how's God going to lead now? And God allows him to see this inability to lead in the face of opposition, leading him to become a cursed shepherd. And so year after year in the hot desert sun, Moses had to unlearn what he had learned to learn from the true ruler, not of Egypt, but of the whole world, how to lead. And that was with dealing with stubborn, dirty animals. This higher education that God often chooses to prepare future leaders, go take care of some plants or some animals. And Moses, like many men, he faced this midlife crisis, leading him to ask those questions about his purpose and his place in life. So the question is, do you think in those first few years, he asked, hey God, why aren't you using me to my best potential? Do you think Moses was frustrated with his place in life? Do you think he wondered, why didn't God allow him to reach his full potential back in Egypt, right? But Moses continued on this path, and he discovered that God had a plan for him. And then through some patience and some faithfulness, it was allowing him to become trained as one of the most celebrated leaders in world history. When we begin to doubt that God is listening or paying attention to our lot in life, boy, it's so good to remember those details about Jesus and Moses, who just did the work closest to them. It's important to know your work is appreciated. And for those who crave a position of greater responsibility, there is a beautiful thought in Psalms chapter 75, verses 6 and 7. It says, promotion doesn't come from the east or the west or from the south, but God is the judge, and he puts down one and he sets up another. We have to believe if we commit our lives to the Lord, he's going to lead us. If you're in a place where you're unsure about a lot of things, commit your ways to God. Do your best at whatever you're doing right now, and then watch for the indications of providence, because it's usually in those boring, mundane moments that God is preparing us for what is next.